It's always a pleasure to support the LRC, and Brighton's one of the most active parts of the LRC. Tonight's a slightly different take on how I would normally approach a meeting, because we have brought the Americans over who are going to talk about the issues that they're facing and dealing with, and why this global campaign around fast food is important. But I did want to make a couple of observations, because last night obviously was the night that the Tories brought the attack on the trade unions, an undemocratic bill, moved by a government with no mandate to really do it. 24% of the population, yet they want to force trade unions to accept that they must reach a balancing threshold of over 50%. And it doesn't, but that isn't the only issue. The strike isn't the only issue. They're attacking health and safety and removing health and safety rights from workplaces too. So it's an attack on, for the first time, a government has actually decided that they will remove the right for inspections. It will remove the rights for automatic training for safety reps too. It will mean that there's a number of areas where if we, as trade unionists, for example, decide that we want to campaign on the streets, then we risk being challenged by the employer of those places that we're going to campaign against. There is a risk also of the use of agency in workplaces, which will then cause friction between the current workers and the agency, because those current workers will be aware that potentially, if they get into a dispute with an employer, that those workers that they may be training up will be used to replace them, alongside others who will be brought in. And the other issue is the potential for mass unemployment to be kept at high levels in this country, on the basis that to ensure there's workers ready and prepared to take over and part their scab army, that they are there to be bussed in, and if they don't do as they're instructed by the job centre, have the benefits removed. This is a pernicious bill that's aimed at destroying communities and the trade union movement. And one of the reasons why it's so important that when you listen to the Americans speak is because of the power of collective responses to injustice. And that's why last night it was important. There was a presence on the streets outside Westminster. It was disappointing it wasn't bigger, because it should have been bigger. It was disappointing that we didn't get the support that we actually needed to make our voices heard better, to make people think again. But we don't expect this Tory government to listen to reasonable argument. We don't expect this Tory government to respond to petitions, to marches. In fact, when it comes to marches, what I would suggest when the General Council, General Secretary sit down, instead of suggesting that we have another march and we bus people in, let's make a different choice. Let's say, put that money into a strike fund and let's take everybody out. It's called a general strike, and you don't rule it out when you're in the fight for your lives, because let's be clear, let's be absolutely clear, this is a fight for our lives. This is potentially the end of our movement. This is potentially a disaster waiting to happen to every community and every part of our society. Because for every trade unionist that stops being a trade unionist because they're criminalised, because that's what they want to do to them, for every person who's in an unorganised workplace, that's no representation that they will be receiving from a trade union coming knocking on their door, and that means that wages in this country will always be suppressed, because if the unions aren't negotiating to improve it, who will? And that's why we have to defeat this bill. And that's why we have to be prepared to take whatever actions necessary. And that includes civil unrest. That includes taking to the streets. That includes being prepared to do whatever we need to do to protect our communities, protect our societies, and rally round to protect the trade union movement. And that's what the TUC organisation and collective responsibility. I'm going over to Nick Rudikoff. I do want to keep calling him Nick Allen. It should be Nick Allen, but we've got a better replacement in Nick Rudikoff. Nick.
Thanks, Ian. Comrades, it's great to be here. I want to thank the LRC and the bakers for hosting us here. I'm from the Service Employees International Union, a union of 2 million healthcare workers, public employees, and janitors in the United States. And I have the honor to be working on this global fast food campaign in partnership with bakers and other unions around the world. What we see happening in America, I don't think is that different from what's happening all over the world. Union density is declining, union power is declining, corporations are getting bigger, more transnational, they're getting more control of government, whichever party's in power. And I think what's exciting, we have a lot of good news to bring from America because we're fighting back. This fast food campaign that the bakers and us and others are involved in is really a huge opportunity. You look at the growing power of transnational capital and huge corporations, and it seems like a big problem. And it is, but it's also a big opportunity. Because never before, I think, in the history of working class struggle, have so many workers around the world been united against so few transnational corporations. For example, McDonald's is the second largest private employer on earth. So when you think about the millions of workers who work in McDonald's factories all around the world, McDonald's stores all around the world, you see this tremendous opportunity for a collective response that transcends national borders. And I think Ian's absolutely right when he says the difference is in collective action that's on the streets. Our minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 an hour, which you do the math, what's that? That's like £5, right? And it's impossible for a worker to survive anywhere in the United States on that wage. But what's happening, and what you're going to hear from my comrades about, is that workers are standing up, going on strike, ignoring the law, not waiting to get certified as a union, but building a union in their hearts, building it with their colleagues at work, and doing what unions have done since time immemorial, since before we had legal rights as trade unions. They're walking off the job. And the right, and learning more about this bill that's come up in your parliament, there's only one thing in my mind that separates a worker from a slave, and that's the ability to withdraw her labor, right? There's no law, there should be no law that says a worker can't decide to not work when they decide not to work. And if they want to decide to do that with their colleagues, that's their right. That's the right in a democratic society. So the fact that that's at risk here is unconscionable, and it should be, of course, it is a wake-up call for all of us. So I don't want to go on too long, but what I want to say is that there is a global movement to challenge transnational fast food companies to respect union rights and pay living wages. We're in it with the bakers, we're proud to be, but I want to hand the mic off to some of the folks who are actually doing the work on the ground. So thank you so much for having me.
Hello everybody, my name is Ajay. I'm actually a lead organizer with the Fast Food Workers Campaign in Detroit, Michigan, where we are known as Detroit 15 for our fight for 15 and a union and just a fair economy. We fight every day. I started as an organizer in 2000, actually when the campaign first began, when they first said that they wanted to get $15 an hour and a union for our fast food workers. And a lot of people thought $15 for fast food, like that seems like a lot. But what they didn't understand is the disrespect and the disrespect that our workers have to go through, and the fact that they're not even making a living wage to either pay their bills to live, or you have to decide on whether or not I'm gonna keep my light bill on and I can't buy food this month. Like we've in the past we've had numerous strikes where we have educated our workers and also showed them their worth to let them know, like where we're from in Detroit, Michigan, our minimum wage was actually $7.50. We went out on a couple of strikes. CEOs and management they were actually getting tired of us hitting their pockets because we were shutting down whole stores. I mean, McDonald's, where we have 27 workers who said, I'm not going to work today. I can't do it. It's not enough. And what we educate them to realize is this is the way for your voices to be heard. Nowadays, in America, in the United States, going on strike, that's like the best thing to do now. It's like they feel so relieved from, like, hey, when's the next strike? Or hey, when am I gonna be able to tell management, like, hey, I'm not coming in to work today because you're not paying me enough. So we in the past we've struck over 3 to 400 fast food workers, and it's not just in Detroit, Michigan, it's all around the United States, because when we had to get the workers, like I said, this is your way to voice your opinion for your voice to be heard. Not only have we went out on strikes, we have taken civil disobedience arrests where we've had workers sit in the street and have the police tell them that you guys cannot be here, you have to move, and they don't move. They take them right to jail because at the end of the day, they're willing to sacrifice their freedom for not only just the respect, but a better means of living. Because we have people out here we have single mothers out here with children who can't afford child care because your wages weren't enough from your job. So not only are we fighting for 15 for our fast food workers in the United States, we've also started our child care fight, where we're fighting for 15 for all low-wage workers who deserve better living. And with me, I have one of our fast food workers here who's been with us since our campaign started. She's been on numerous strikes. I think she's pretty much enjoying these strikes now. They tell your boss, like, hey, I don't think I can deal with you today. But pretty much what Ian said and what Nick said, it's a fight for everybody. It's a fight for better wages. It's a fight for better life. And it's a fight for respect, because you're not well respected by some upper class when you're making $7.40 and maybe $8.15, and you get your check and you have to go day to day off that check because you got 2 weeks before you can get another one. And it's unfair. It's unfair that they're looked down on because we want to fight for 15. It's unfair that we're looked down on because we want a better way of living. It's unfair that we're looked down on because I want to make more money to take care of my family. I want to be able to take care of my children. If my parents need help on the bills, I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to move out my parents' house. These are some of the things that we hear from our fast food workers. You'd be surprised that a lot of our fast food workers who do go out on strike, some of them are actually homeless and don't even have a place to go. And that their job is the only thing that they do have. So can you imagine that feeling of not having any family, anywhere to go, and the only thing you have is this piece of job, and they don't even want to pay me the right wages for the amount of work that I do. So from here on out, the strikes, like I said, that's how we tell our story. That's how we voice our opinion. We're going to continue to keep striking. We're going to continue to keep taking civil disobedience arrests until these CEOs and these corporations understand that we deserve more. And unless we're going to be standing right up in the forefront, and not only is it just in Detroit, like I said, it's all around the United States. Everybody's fighting for a better wage, for $15 an hour and a union. And it really, 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 really made us feel great to see that not only was it in the United States, that it was in other countries, for us to see other countries fighting for a better wage and better living. I thought that was pretty awesome. That was pretty cool. And we're glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mya Hill. I work at a fast food place called Checkers, an American hamburger joint, you would say. I've been working there for about 5 years. I've been with the Fight for 15 for about 3 years. Yeah. So basically since the beginning. Tell you a little story of why I began to fight in the first place. As she told you, when we first began, our minimum wage was $7.50. At my job, they said if you have a good review once a year, then you'll get a raise. Well, I went 2 years without getting a raise, struggling every single day to not only make ends meet, but I also had a son. Right now, he's 3 years old, and it was really, really hard for us. I work countless hours. I come in overtime. I come in on my days off. There's been times that I've worked 10 or 12 days in a row without an off day, even if I just come in for a 4 or 5 hour shift, only because they don't have anyone. A lot of people in our country look at fast food workers as you guys are lazy, or this job is for teenagers or something like that, but I'm not a teenager. I'm 25 years old. I take my job very seriously. I appreciate giving people not only good quality service, but good food. I enjoy the fast pace and the smiles, and when you see, of course, when you give somebody ice cream, especially a kid, when then you give them the ice cream, they say, "Oh my God, it's so pretty." It's the one off the box. But anyways, back to my story. So I went on, continued to work, and again, they didn't tell me about the raises at all, or the evaluation or anything like that. So when another manager from a different store came in to substitute for one of our managers, they told us about it. And I was in such shock. Like, I've been working so hard all this time, and no one could have told me about a raise, you know? So I kindly spoke with about all of my coworkers. Once I spoke with one of my organizers, I let her know. I got everybody's on board. That same night, we walked out. We left one manager and one worker. The other district managers and general managers had to come in and close the store. Our store at the time closed at 4 a.m. Our store was shut down by 10 p.m. And I remember looking back from the sidewalk and being so proud that we can not only just come together, but we can tell them no more. No, we are so much better than this. You guys treat us like dirt and pay us like slaves and expect what, for us to come in nice and chippery and hey, we love this job. I mean, don't get us wrong, we like our job. We don't like our wages, not at all. My son, again, he'll be 3 in December. He is starting to catch on to what I'm doing. I've taken him out on so many strikes. It's so funny as he walks around and he raises his fist and he yells, "No justice, no peace" with us. And of course, he right now doesn't understand that this is making history. We are not only in America making history, but all over this globe are making history. It's time to stand up and fight back. And if not, shut it down. That's it.
Our thanks to Nick Rudikoff, who's the Global Co-ordinator, as I understand it, for the Service Employees International Union. Ajay Thomas and Mya Hill for coming and making that great contribution. Thank you very much. And we send our solidarity to you. And also to Ian Hodson for that fantastic, rousing opening to our meeting. These guys are going to be going off shortly because they've got another meeting to go to, but our special thanks to them for that brilliant contribution and a great start to the meeting. Thank you.